And good evening. Welcome to the Lower Makefield Township December Park and Recreation Board meeting. Our first order of business tonight is to do roll call. And on the line, we have Kim Rock, Mike Brody, our supervisor liaison, Colin Coyle, myself, Doug Kraus, and our director of Park and Recreation, Monica Tierney. Absent is Rob Labar, Mike Blundy, Dennis Wasaki, and Dave Malinowski. So for tonight, we will not be voting on any specific action items. So we will not approve the outstanding meeting minutes for October and November. So with that, we are on number 4 on the agenda item, our liaison report. So seniors, so welcome. Come on up to the microphone. State your name and address for our reporter, our court reporter, who is listening but not here present. So it's just she's going to check to make sure the microphones are on.
On? Okay.
Just state your name and your address. And
Good evening. My name is David Burkhart. My address is 316 Walton Drive. I am currently the incoming president of the Lower Makefield Seniors. With me this evening also is Miss Ellie Hamill, who is the, I guess you could say, outgoing or past president of the seniors. We wanted to speak with you this evening about the increase in the fees that has been proposed to the Lower Makefield seniors. At the November meeting, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, you folks, voted to recommend an increase in the fees paid to the township by members of the Lower Makefield seniors from $15 to $30 for township residents and $20 to $60 for non-township residents. We were only informed of this proposed increase last Wednesday, and as such, had no opportunity to address the board during your deliberations. Ms. Tierney suggested viewing the video of the November board meeting to observe the discussion, which resulted in the recommendation for the increase in the fees. Now, unfortunately, some of the audio was not completely clear to my hearing. As you see, I'm wearing hearing aids, so I have a little bit of a hearing impairment. And some of the slides were not available during the video of the meeting, as Ms. Tierney's laptop had to leave the room to be recharged, so we weren't able to see those. Now, there was, in viewing the meeting, there was discussion and comments during the November board meeting that the seniors are the most frequent user of the community center, and as such, should be paying for a larger percentage of the operating costs of the building. Above our, it's greater than our current payment. Now, it was also stated during the board meeting that the operating expenses of the community center are, for the most part, underwritten by tax revenues. And I believe that's rightfully so. As the community center, just like this township building, the library, and the parks are open to all members of the public without additional charges or user fees to those individuals when they frequent the parks or the buildings. Now, since the community center is open throughout the week for public and township sponsored meetings and events, and it's used by the Parks and Rec Department for their offices, the heat, air conditioning, lighting, other relative operational expenses are going to be incurred regardless of whether the seniors meet in this building. The proposed fees that you have made are going to place an undue financial burden on our members, many of whom are on fixed incomes. Now, the community center does not provide any programming resources for our group, so our membership dues must also include funds for our programs, activities, and the liability insurance that we are required to carry per the room rental agreement, in which the township is named as an additional insured. Now, we anticipate that the township's user fee increase is going to raise our membership fees to approximately $50 for township residents and $80 for non-township residents. I think it's important to note that other senior organizations in the area, Falls, Morrisville, Middletown, Northampton, have annual membership fees for their members of between $15 and $25 per person. Now, these groups also do not have different fees for residents and non-residents of the municipalities in which these organizations are located. Now, an initial limited polling of our members suggests that the membership of our group will decrease approximately 25% if the user fees increases are enacted. Now, based on this reduction in our membership, the net revenue increase that the township will receive is going to be much less than what you estimate. And it's going to come at the cost of disenfranchisement of senior citizens in our community, which, by the way, make up approximately 30% of the population of the township. Now, prior to the construction of the community center,
Quick question for you. How many active members do you have now? Whether it's
350.
350? And do you know the split between residents, non-residents?
I'm sorry?
You know the split between resident, non-resident, just off the top of your head? So 60% just for 60-40, okay.
Okay. But prior to the construction of the community center, the Lower Makefield seniors met here in the township building, paid no fee for the use of the building. Now, the current situation should be no different, but we're not asking for a rollback in fees. What we are requesting and asking for is that fees be maintained at the current level, even though the township fees result in our membership dues being much higher than the dues paid by members of other senior groups in our area. So basically, that's what our position is. Well, thank you for the opportunity to come and speak with you about this. And I understand that if you don't have a quorum, you're not going to be able to vote on things tonight.
No, I appreciate you both coming in and expressing your concern, right, and state your position. I'll open it up to, before I speak, I'll just open it up to Kim, Michael, or Colin, if you have any questions or comments with regard to their positioning.
Can you just remind me if you said with the rate increase it would be $50 for residents, $80 for non-residents, and then what is it currently that you're charging?
Current, your
Township. What are you in? Which one?
what you currently charge? What you
$50 for non-residents and $15. I mean, 20 for, yeah.
You have to talk into the mics. He can't hear you because you have to talk into the mic.
The microphone.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The current fee is, sorry about that.
No, you're good.
20 for non-residents and 15 for residents.
20 for non-residents and right. Okay.
what do you charge your members?
And the members are charged $25 yearly,
All members.
all members.
All right.
So
We'd like to, what we would like to do, or at least I'm the outgoing president, so what I have to say really doesn't matter much because it's going to be up to Dave to set the new policies. But what I would like to do is see the membership dues raised to 30 or 35 and the user fees kept at one price for residents and non-residents. I mean, I think that makes sense. I mean, they are joining not as residents or non-residents. They are joining to be members of the Lower Makefield seniors. I mean,
Yeah.
I know it has Lower Makefield in there, but it's a social organization and it's for seniors. I mean, originally we were trying for a senior center, it became a community center. But, you know, since it is a community center, it's still a senior organization for seniors in the community.
Well, your rates are similar to other organizations that reserve time in the township or space in the township. So whether it's your group, a senior group, whether it's a sports organization, the fees are the same as for the user groups, right? So resident, non-resident, the rates are the same. So we applied the same cost or fee structure for all user groups that reserve specific facilities in the township, right? So step one. Now, those user groups, similar to what you do, they decide to have one rate for their members. So when someone signs up for baseball or soccer or for tennis, they charge the members one rate. So that's how you would manage that, but just knowing what you pay the township feels that if they're not a resident, that the fees should be higher, right? So regardless of the type of group, whether it's a senior group, a youth group, the feel is that, you know, a non-resident should pay a little bit higher burden of the cost, right?
But your increase is excessive. I mean, it's almost like 100% in your user
Well,
fees.
Well, it's 100%, but when's the last time, if I recall, the last time the user rates were raised has been,
Okay,
so,
Dave wanted to say something.
Okay, so one of the things in viewing the video from your last meeting, and when you were talking about the raises and the other operations for the pool, for the dog park, various operations, most of those, from what I could gather from the meeting, most of those increases were in the range of 9 to 15% for those operations. Yet the raise that you are proposing for the seniors group is 100 to 300%.
yeah. And
That
well,
is, to me, that is very,
well,
that is not
one of the
equitable.
reasons behind that is that some of those other fees you have seen have increased periodically over the last couple of years. So the user fee, to Monica's point, you know, has not changed for many, many, many years. So when I was PAA commissioner of baseball and finance, I think the rates were still 15 and whatever the current rate is now,
For the league,
non-resident, right, for the
yeah,
league,
36.
36. So it's been 15, 20 plus years since those fees for user groups have been raised. Okay, so but pool fees went up last year, went up the year before. So why you're not seeing the same incremental percent increase is because those fees have increased recently. Okay, so it's not that we were just taking 100% across the board everywhere. It was where those fees made sense. It wasn't just a straight, hey, we're going to raise rates 100% for everybody, right? So each group had different rates based on cost of the cost associated with those programs and what increases could be taken, right? So, and when the last time the increases were applied, right? So there was multiple factors going in. It wasn't just an equal percentage across all.
I understand. Okay, that's fine. But when I look at the increase, the proposed increase for our fees, and you look at the operating expenses of the seniors of the community center, I would propose that you would take a look at what the operating expenses of that center were when we first moved into that building versus what they are now, and say, okay, the percentage of the increase in the operating expenses is 50%. Now, if we were paying $15 and $20 back when that started, increase the fees 50% or 20% or whatever that increase in the operating expenses is, that is related to the increase that has occurred since the fees were originally set.
Yeah, I mean, Monica, you can talk to the facility cost. I think obviously labor is a big component, right? And labor expenses have gone up, but if you want to address the facility cost in itself.
And Doug, when there's an opportunity, I think I'd like to place this discussion in a bit of a larger context as well.
Colin, why don't you go ahead and do that first?
Sure. So first off, thank you for taking the time to come here. I know you've spoken with Supervisor Grenier. What I wanted to talk about a little bit was the broader context of the financial state of the township where we are currently. So you make a wonderful point about the operating costs of the community center when constructed versus today. The reality when we look at it is that the Parks and Recreation budget has not been funded solely by user fees throughout its time. We've been using the general fund to supplement and to keep costs low where we can. We use the general fund to supplement things like the operations of the community center, of the pool, of 4-year-old toddlers. Pardon me a moment. Hi, honey. I'll come in just a few minutes, okay? Go away, please. Thank you for the moment of levity, Talia.
You should close the door behind.
Oh, it's closed. So what's important to understand is the budget as proposed that's sitting for consideration approval by the board today still shows a $1.5 million budget deficit, right? And unfortunately, we cannot continue to sustain a $1.5 million budget deficit as a township and continue to do the things that the township has to do, like provide policing, like resurface roads as necessary, right? The basics of public safety and keeping up with our infrastructure. So unfortunately, because we haven't gradually increased user fees over the course of many years, we are forced in this time to make these decisions to close budget gaps by making sharp increases. The raw percentage increase that is proposed for the seniors is significant, but the dollar increase, when we apply that to the summer camp families and the multiple children that they have, right, that places a burden onto families as well. So I think all I'd like to say here is we are increasing the burden on seniors. We're increasing the burden on families. We're increasing the burden on everyone who uses the facilities and the user fees because we have some work to do on our budget.
One of the things that I would ask you to consider is, though, that you mentioned that the township has a deficit, the Parks and Rec operation is operating at a deficit also, if I'm understanding you correctly.
That's correct. And that's one of the things that we are trying to move towards correcting out, right? About having the user fees carry more or contribute more to the operations of Parks and Rec. We certainly don't want to run Parks and Recreation like a private enterprise where it's dollar for dollar funded by everyone who sets foot in a playground or spends time in the community center. And I think that Monica could speak to this, but even the fees that are proposed for the seniors for the use of the community center, we're still not recovering 100% of the cost of that building because we shouldn't, right? At the end of the day, it's a municipal good. It's a net good to all taxpayers to have it. It's a net good to all taxpayers to have a place for our seniors to congregate, to have that social interaction that is so important. I think we'd be having a different discussion if we had been making small increases over a long period of time.
Well, I understand that. I think that, though, that it's important to differentiate between the Parks and Recreation Board budget and programs and the seniors group. There's no connect there other than the fact that we are meeting in a township-owned facility for our meetings. And so we should not be penalized as a group because Parks and Recreation is operating at a deficit. I think that also one of the things you need to consider, and again, I guess I'm kind of a latecomer to the party in that I just recently retired from full-time employment 2 years ago and became active with the seniors. But in trying to do a little bit of research and talking with folks that have been around for a little bit longer, I went back and found information in newspaper and in public records that goes back to when this senior center was first or I shouldn't say senior center, this community, or actually, initially it was referred to as a senior/community center back in in public documents. And looking back at those, several of the things jumped out at me. The grants that were obtained, and in no small part by the efforts of State Senator C. Santosario, from the state, there are two $1 million grants. One of the public record and the articles indicates that one of the grants would be used to help a community center that would provide ample space for the Lower Makefield Seniors Group. No commentary was made about charging the seniors group for using the buildings. Other articles said in addition to serving the general public, which this building does, the community center will also provide township seniors group with a place to hold meetings and enrichment classes. These meetings and enrichment classes and programs are totally funded by our own group, not funded by the township. So it just becomes then a matter of we happen to be using a publicly owned facility for our meetings, which is what happened before when we were here in the township building and not paying any type of a user fee. Like I said, we're not asking that user fees be removed, but the increase is definitely going to impact and affect some of the seniors in this community who will no longer be a part of our group. And most likely they will go to other senior centers in the area to receive the same type of socialization and activities that we now provide.
Yeah, I understand. And to point back to what Doug said earlier, ultimately the fees that are being proposed here are in line with fees that we charge to other groups for access to township facilities. And I will say, I do appreciate you coming with a proposal that says, hey, we recognize, right, that there is a need to contribute further. I think my final thought on this matter would be, it's at the end of the day, we need to recognize where we are as a township financially. And if these rates are changed, if the Parks and Rec Board makes a different recommendation, that's going to impact a different group, right? That's going to impact, pool members or young families or someone else within the township. So, and I don't mean that flippantly, right? I wish we weren't where we are and we had been having these conversations over a longer course of time. But I do appreciate all that you've brought here today. And if anyone else has any other comments to offer, Monica, you have any other thoughts to add on the situation, it's probably a good time to do so.
When would we know about what you are going to propose to the supervisors?
The Parks and Rec Board would make any recommendations once they have a quorum on, if they want to change or adjust any fees. The actual fees themselves are not part of the budget process, right? So the budget process is a simple top line number, really, of what we approve for expenditures within Parks and Recreation based upon what we forecast fees and millage, et cetera. So this doesn't have to be solidified as part of this current budget process. The Parks and Rec Board can make
Colin,
adjustment.
can I interject real quick? We
Please.
do vote on December 20th. The fees are voted on by the Board of Supervisors. So this is our last meeting before it goes before the Board of Supervisors. It goes as part of the budget packet.
I'm pretty sure we voted. I mean, we at some point, I guess we could have a discussion to revote, but we did vote and with these fees as suggested, I believe. Isn't that correct, Monica? Did we do that like at the last meeting?
Yeah. There was a vote on the senior fees. And could it be adjusted in the new year, after the fees are proposed? But at this point, it stands 30 and 60 is the proposed voted on by the board without a quorum. We couldn't change our recommendation, or the board couldn't change their recommendation.
I think there's this other I want to say, Monica, like when a sport league has like a fall season and a spring season, do they pay user fees for both seasons?
Yeah, they do. So they're paid twice a year and the seniors pay once a year.
And how much is that? Is like a league paying per person, roughly?
It's going to be 30 and 60, the same.
30 and 60. So, so I think that's something that I personally have struggled with in terms of trying to find a proper balance between not inundating the seniors who have fixed income, but also being realistic of the large number of fees that families pay. Obviously everybody kind of brings their own bias to the conversation. So, the bias I'll bring to the conversation is I have an 11-year-old boy and an 8-year-old girl, both play softball or baseball 2 seasons in a row. So my family's then being responsible for, I'm a resident, so $130 for each kid. If they play football, then I'm paying for that. So like my family is like $150 probably for the year in user fees. And then if you think of a family that has 4 or 5 kids, then their numbers could be even more exorbitant. And if we were to take the approach that, PAA or YMS shouldn't have to really pay the township to use those fields because it's community fields, I think it just kind of puts us in a tough spot. And I think something that I just take a step back and think is like, while the percentage is high, I guess I do look at it as it's a one-time fee of an extra $25, $30. And I don't poo-poo that, but there's a part of me that says, well, 40% of the people are coming from out of town to come to our township property. They must be doing it must be a pretty good offering that we're giving there.
Michael, can I just interrupt? Can I just
Yeah.
interrupt you, Mike, 1 second?
Yeah.
I just want to recognize that Dennis Wasaki has joined the meeting at 8:10 PM. Hi, Dennis.
So we have a quorum. Thank you. So I guess I just wanted to, kind of that different perspective. And so, so it really is a challenge for me. And honestly, the fact that our township does have such a high number of seniors is part of the reason why I feel like it's that much more. We have to be more mindful that they do unfortunately have to help pick up some of the costs. Unfortunately, a lot of the township park and rec features, although we've done our best to upkeep them, they're overdue for some very long-term overhauls and upgrades. And so unfortunately, I think we all need to be somewhat a part of that.
I think that's true, but you have to remember that a lot of the seniors, we're only a very, very small percentage that are a senior group at the community center. There are so many, and I don't know the number, more seniors that pay taxes here that don't use any of the facilities, and yet their taxes are going for these facilities. So, I mean, I don't think that argument that you're giving is a really good one for us. I mean, I don't think it's fair. I mean, we pay school taxes, we pay real estate taxes, and more than half the seniors that live here don't even use the school systems or any of those facilities, the pool or the libraries or the township buildings. So, I mean, you're getting a good percentage of seniors that pay taxes that really don't use your facilities and still are willing to pay taxes to live here in Lower Makefield Township. So, I mean, I think that we do contribute to the economics here at Lower Makefield Township.
And I don't think anybody has said you don't, right? I mean, and that's regardless of what community you go to, like the basis is that you pay taxes, you drive on the roads, you have police, you have fire, right? So, and there are other amenities. And so we can't pick and choose which amenities we want, which ones we don't want, right? We try to make this the best for the broader community so that the total investment, and why people want to come here. So at the time when you choose to move on or sell your house or whatever, that this is a vibrant community. When you came here, right? It was a vibrant community and we want to leave it for the next generation. And so I think we put together a plethora of activities to try to reach a diverse community, whether it's seniors, whether it's active for sports, whether it's walking, whether it's arts at CAPS. So there's golf, there's pool, there's a lot of different diverse activities. And Monica's done a really wonderful job at the community center to provide other activities, whether it's yoga, whether it's art and bringing in speakers and things like that. So there's a lot of different offerings that community center, not only giving you a home, right, but has also given the township a lot of other opportunities, and it does cost money to run. I don't think it was ever considered to be free, right? There is a cost to run that facility. And again, to Colin's point, those fees have not changed. I mean, I sat here when that facility opened up, and I remember the conversation that, you know, we grandfathered you in at an old rate and prior to that facility opening up. And we just, you know, again, whether it's the sports user groups or the other ones, those fees just haven't changed for a long time. And you and I know that costs to operate things have increased over the time. And I think to Colin's point is that the township just can't continue to absorb all the fees and costs associated with running, you know, not just the community center, but all the parks that we have here. So, you know, everybody's chipping in. As kind of Michael Brody said, it's like families that have kids that are playing sports, or if you want to join the pool, like everybody's is chipping in. And if they choose that they don't want to participate, that I understand that. Trust me, I'm empathetic to your plight. Everybody's got to pick and choose where they want to invest their dollars and their time. I mean, to Monica's point, we made a proposal and recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. They will be voting on that at that next meeting. You know, if no one else has any comments tonight, I mean.
Can I just provide some clarity about senior centers and how they operate within?
Yeah, I think Monica, it's for just the table stakes, so everybody understands the difference between a senior center, community center, and why ours is a community center, not a senior center.
I did a lot of research because I've heard a lot of hearsay over time. So I reached out to Bucks County Area of Aging. I've reached out to everyone just to make sure that this is a level playing field and everybody understands, you know, kind of how things came about. Bucks County Area on Aging, the county, has 13 senior centers. They only have one senior center per school district, and not every school district within the.
Excuse me, Monica, that is not correct. There are 2 senior centers in the Neshaminy School District.
There's only one.
No.
Is there one in Southampton as well?
There are two senior centers in the area that is served by the Neshaminy School District.
Are they both funded by the county?
Yes, they are.
Okay, I'll look into that.
or
But
I
I'll
think
tell you
with
what I know. I'll tell you what
They are listed on the brochure as a senior center that's supported by the Bucks County for Aging.
Well, our center is also listed on there, but they don't.
No, it's not. And that's an interesting point, because after we had our last meet and greet meeting with a representative from the county, he was talking about the various things. He presented this, and in looking at the senior center list, like, well, Lower Makefield is not listed on this list. So I called the agency and I said, hey, you know, we had this meeting. And it was presented about some of the stuff that the senior centers offer. And we're a senior group that meets in Lower Makefield, and we're not listed on this list. Why not? The comment that I received from the agency was that the Lower Makefield Township has not contracted with the agency to provide services.
So.
And then I said, well, okay, well, what do we need to do to get involved with this? And they directed me to the State Department of Aging, and I've been back and forth with them to find out what the requirements are for us to get included in this program. So that's kind of where we are. Again, this has been kind of a, you know, coming late to the meeting thing, but trying to figure out what's going on. But that's what I've been able to find out so far about how the various government departments and agencies on aging work.
So I talked to the same person you did because she told me some gentleman from Lower Makefield Township had spoken to her already. So there are 13 agencies. Not every school district has one. Socioeconomic status has something to do with how they do placement of and funding. So lower socioeconomic areas get more funding, higher socioeconomic get less funding. The example of that would be Northampton Township. You have to be a certified or accredited senior center in order to receive state and county funding. We do not have any of that. So when we applied for a grant in 2010 to get a senior center, we were denied because we were not selected as an official site for a senior center because of these reasons. So that's why we are not funded. So we are tax-based supported from Lower Makefield Township as something extra in addition. So the 13 senior centers within the county, any senior can use those all throughout the county. You know, that's funded separately. There's meals, there's different programming, there's different type of trips. There's, you know, they have ample funding. Lower Makefield has elected to go a different route and there is some tax supplementation. So in 2023, before all included, understanding that the Parks and Rec Department operates out of the community center in 2023, 41,000, including staffing, $41,329 is going towards of millage is going towards the community center after fee increases to everything across the board. In 2024, tax millage will go to $22,783, including staffing. So that includes staffing. So I just kind of wanted to bring those numbers before the board. I did do a little layout graphic for the board, and the seniors got this evening as well. So if anybody has any questions about that, overall and how that was calculated, I'd be glad to answer them.
As I discussed with you earlier, Monica, we had not had an opportunity to review this spreadsheet prior to this meeting and would like to have the opportunity to look at this and to do look at our own analysis as to the hours that are used that we have. And so, again, I would like to have the opportunity to do that independently.
And again, like I said, the Board of Supervisors, what's the date that they vote on?
The 20th.
20th, so it would be next Wednesday. And my recommendation, obviously, that gives you about 8 days to kind of look through the numbers to at least come to the Board of Supervisor meeting, because that's where they'll ultimately we're advisory board, so we'll provide them a recommendation, which we had done in November. We voted on those increases, so they are the ultimate decision makers. They have the D, right? They control the purse strings. So my recommendation would be to come to that Board of Supervisors meeting with what other information that you have, and they will be the ultimate decision makers on whether or not that fee will stay or at the rate that we recommend, or if they choose a different rate.
Are you still recommending the 60 and 30 to the board, the Board of Supervisors at for that particular meeting?
That's what our group voted on for the user fees for all user groups was $30 for a resident.
Whether that's what you're going to recommend to the board.
Well, we already did. We already voted for that.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, unless somebody here on the board
I have a
line wants to make a
question then.
proposal, but
As far as user fees at the senior center, with the rentals and the summer camp and the staff training and free programming and public meetings, are those fees also being increased the same percentage as our fees?
no, like I said, there's different fee structure changes based on each of the different groups, the different activities, right? So, and Monica go through some of those, like summer camp had a different rate change, again, because they've had different increases over the last couple of years, but they've only been in existence. The summer camp is this is year 3, right?
I think part of that was also covering costs. We covered an excess costs with their fee increase.
So if you
Um,
look. on the
Every single one of
spreadsheet,
our
right,
user groups cover cost.
So if you look
Oh.
at their,
One of the things, and again, it's not having had time to really review this. One of the things that I would ask about is that the calculation of the percentage of active time and use. There is nothing here that includes the office use and space by the Parks and Recreation Board in the total hours of use of the building.
what you'll see is, the facility cost, right? That number, that 37,500. So she's automatically taking out 25% for, right? Is that correct?
Yep. And we also didn't calculate in the full-time use the seniors have of the one classroom. So you have that room dedicated to you, and we cannot use it in the same way. That's not calculated into these hours.
So the facility cost column, right? That 37.5, the cost to run that facility is $50,000 if you look at in the box below the grid there, right? So she's taking out 25% of that cost because of the Parks and Rec operating tax millage. So but I think his question is about your hour, but these are just hours for programming, right? That they have to, this is hours that other activities are going on in that building. Right?
But this whole projection is based upon the total operating cost for the community center.
Right, so 25% came out off the top.
Already off the top.
Off the top to cover the overhead for the staff that sits in there every day, right?
Okay, so where, again.
So your facility cost is at 37.5, right? In that one column, right? The total cost to run that facility for the year is $50,000.
50,000, yes.
Right? So they're taking off 25% of that, right? Factoring in the staff that's in there.
All right, but the staff is in there 40 hours a week, 52 weeks out of the year, which ends up being a lot more hours than what the seniors are in there.
Yeah, but
So
at the same time, there's a whole room dedicated to the seniors. It's evened out. I mean, ultimately, we're not taking percentage off for that either.
You have a permanent room in there.
Yeah.
It's not available to any
Other user.
other user group, right? So that's revenue that could be generated, but it's not being resident, right? So that room is yours. Nobody else's. We're not booking time. We're not reserving it for other user groups. That room is locked. It's your senior group room. Right, so it can't be used by other groups. So you have a permanent room in there.
Is that true? Okay. What I would do is look at that, perhaps look at that as a percentage of the total space, as opposed to saying it's a room that can't be used. And is that an appropriate way to look at an allocation of costs?
Well, but I have to defer to Monica. I don't know what that's not the only room you use. Is that correct?
Well, you use all of the rooms. So the rooms, you have that one room that we can't use. We don't go in pretty much at all, unless if we're cleaning it for you or setting it up or tearing it down for you. But that room we do not use at all. And so we did not calculate into this other than when you have reserved time in that space, just as if it were any other room in the building. But you have people who are coming in there and playing cards all the time, even without, that room is open to seniors to use at your own whim.
I would, well, I'm going to take a little bit more look at that, because I would not characterize it as all the time.
All the time meaning active or being?
Yeah.
Well, but the hours here, this hour number here, that only calculates your reserve, like the time that you actually are using the building. So if that room is not being occupied, it's not counted in here. Right, so the numbers aren't inflated to account for like time that's not being used, right? So if the door's closed, nobody's using it. Monica didn't use that in the
calculation, but we can't use it
But we can't, but Monica doesn't book other groups
in that.
in that room at all. Does that am I kind of am I clear on that? So this 1,722 hours is hours that are active hours in the community center. So even that, if that room's not being utilized and it's closed, that's not in this calculation, okay? It's only, it's only calculated on active time in the community center.
Things on your calendar.
So if you schedule something, whether it's bridge or arts and crafts or whatever, that I don't have a list of the activities, but that's all that's in this number.
So if this is just rough calculation, the mental math here, at 1,722 hours per year, this is, right? Is that correct?
This year.
All right. So that is indicating that we are using in excess of 30 hours a week in that building.
Yes.
All right. I would like to look at what our schedule is and see if that is indeed the case.
And more than, if you have questions, reach out to Monica. She keeps the master schedule. So,
Oh, all right. Well,
Yeah, I mean-
again, what I would like to do is
Sure.
be able to, since we just received this when I walked into the meeting tonight, we wanted to have a chance to look at this and be able to digest it, interpret it, and offer some opinions about this.
no, I mean, again, unless,
It seems a little excessive to me, but I haven't looked at it thoroughly either, so it's something that we'll have to go over.
yeah, please take a
So
look at it.
just on Fridays, for example, you're in for about 3 to 4 hours for bridge, 4 hours a Friday. That's 16 hours a month right there, just Fridays.
You said 30 hours a week.
I
right?
guess I'd like to say something like, I don't feel like we increased this rate based off it being 700 hours used versus 800 hours used. The township and the Park and Rec Board is faced with a problem of too many resources and not enough funds to cover those resources. And we had no choice but to raise costs across the board. And I think as we look across the landscape of monies collected by the different groups of our residents, and I understand what you're saying, but everybody pays taxes, and everybody pays the same degree of taxes relative to their properties that they own. That we had no choice but to find spots where we felt we were offering a product that could be where we could collect more, so I guess I just wanted to stress that across the board we have increases, and if I would argue that if we looked at all the different age groups and family types and the different amounts that people are paying, I know in my head part of the reason why I supported this increase was it felt to be the proper increase across everything else. Pools having increases, user fees have increases. When I think of the leagues, if we think about all the different leagues that pay user fees and the number of times and the number of families that are paying into those user fees, it's in the thousands of families paying multiple times over. Whereas this, we're talking about 300 to 400 people and a once a year, one-time increase. So I guess that, I feel bad that it's so steep percentage wise, but I hate to see us get so in the nitty gritty of that spreadsheet that Monica gave us, because I don't think it speaks to the issue at hand, which is, as an overall Park and Rec department, we face a shortfall that we need to tackle. And I think the board, we felt strongly that everybody needs to, unfortunately, do a part.
Well, I think it's important to differentiate between, because the seniors group is not part of the Parks and Rec operation. I understand that there are costs associated with the operation of the Parks and Rec functions, but the seniors is not one of those. Parks and Rec does not provide any programming to the seniors.
Do you
The
think
township allows us to use one of the public buildings for the meetings. This ends up being a the township building, this is no different than people coming to use the library. People
Do you feel
using the
the-
parks, when they walk into the parks. I mean, if you're looking for users to pay for this, what is your plan for paying or for charging people who decide they want to take a hike through the park?
So for
Do you feel
example,
that-
like the baseball players and league that grooms the fields, provides the uniforms, hires the umpires, volunteers coaching, should they then not pay the township for the use of the fields? Because the township, other than cutting the grass, does not run the baseball league, does not provide umpires, does not provide equipment, does not provide uniforms, does not provide coaches. So are you saying that all the people that play soccer or baseball should not pay for use of the field? They should not pay. Okay. I'm trying to make an analogy there because we were saying that you shouldn't, should not have to pay, part of the park and rec because the rec department doesn't necessarily provide you with any programming, right?
Oh, I'm not saying that at all. What I am thinking about here is that, yes, if you did not have those ball fields, you wouldn't have that expense. So it makes sense for the people that are using that, the leagues, to pay for a fee to have that available. If the seniors are not in the building, you're still going to have those expenses for the building, for the operation of the building.
Correct, but if if the township decided, which is not the case, but I'm just putting this out there, it's like, well, if they wanted then to use that room that you have and then other user groups could compete with the space, right? So there's give and take because it is a community center. And at the end of the day, Monica could say, we're going to run other activities and you could compete with the amount of time you have there. So you might have to go elsewhere to rent space. So there is give and take, I think, in terms of, understanding that, yes, it's a community center. You have a dedicated room in there. And I think when you look at the rate, for a resident, you're talking $4.25 a month, right? I granted for 50, you said you do $50, right? Is what
60, 30 and 60 is what.
30, yeah, $30. So if you're a resident for $30, now you charge $50 for the membership, but that's, $4 and some odd cents for a month, right? So I'm just trying to present you with different analogies. Like you do have that space in there and we give you that dedicated space and allow you to use that room. But if you look at it the other way, you're kind of looking at it is like, well, if that space wasn't dedicated and she wanted to then offer up different services, then you'd have to compete with the time. And you might not have as many activities and spaces. So I think,
And that decision wouldn't be mine. That would be the board voting.
or the supervisors, not mine. I mean, I'm just saying that, so, we
Just want to
we are working with you as a group and you I think Monica was trying to be pretty transparent so that you have a good understanding of the cost to run and what the subsidies are. And I think Colin and Mike Brody and the other members here have all kind of painted the picture that, collectively, we were not just one group got, charged with a higher rate. Everybody, every user group, dog park, pickleball, the pool, summer camp, user fees, every group saw an increase. Not the same percentages, but, some of the absolute dollars might be, it just depended upon, what their contribution was, what their costs were to run and when the last time they had an increase. So all of that was a factor. It wasn't just, like I said earlier, we just didn't take, well, we're going to do user fees is going to be 100% and everything else is going to be different. It was, trust me, all of the members here, we didn't sit, that was our longest meeting of the year. I mean, we were here for a good 4+ hours to discuss this. We did take this seriously.
So
and
if the seniors room, and I'm not suggesting this at this point, I'm just throwing this out there as a hypothetical. If the seniors room was available for other uses when the seniors are not physically using the room, would that alter the approach?
I mean, it could potentially, but to be honest, just so you know, because you're a latecomer, there are seniors that go in gap hours throughout the day and just play cars or pick up and play pinochle or, whatever when there's gap time. So people do use that room during open time. It just wasn't accounted for in the number. And to be honest, I only did this because I was getting so many questions. This spreadsheet about, what's the percentage of usage or what's the cost of this? It was just to kind of put the facts out there. These are the facts. This is how many, hours this group uses, this is how many hours this group uses. It doesn't include, setup, tear down, any of that. So it wasn't meant as a slight or to surprise anybody or just to pull some facts together because I was getting so many questions.
Well, it did surprise me, that's for sure.
But again, it was, we want to make sure everybody has the same information, right?
Sure.
So
I-
we're all
no, I
talking to the
understand that.
same- same-
But I guess the last comment that I would make would be, if there was a group that wanted to come in here and use part of the township building for a meeting, would they be charged? If there was a group that wanted to go to the library and have a meeting in their room, would they be charged?
Well,
I don't think
the way
so.
they do reservations at the township building is very different now. I really couldn't speak to, I don't think there's a fee for it, but it's for all the Board of Supervisors groups like us, the advisory boards and the councils and that kind of thing. And the police use it for training and we use it for township meetings. It's not necessarily used open, but I could be misspeaking a little bit.
I don't know specifically because this is a township specific building, different than community center, which falls under the Park and Recreation Department. So I don't know specifically what the township does with this building.
And the library is run by the Bucks County Free Library System. It's a county resource. I'm not certain what their policies are.
Sorry, the library charges. I've held seminars in the library and had to pay like a $75 fee for 2 hours or something.
Does anybody else on the line have any questions for them before they?
Do you now have a quorum that you could take up a request to reconsider the fees or
I'll
not?
see if anybody wants to make a proposal. Anybody on the line want to make a proposal to revise any of the user group fees? No.
There's no public comment online right now.
So
That
that
public
means you're
end.
sticking with the 60/30.
Okay, well, I want
Does
to.
that mean you're sticking with the 60/30?
Yeah, our original recommendations stand. So like I said, next Wednesday, I would recommend that you.
And then
go
it's up to
board.
the Board of Supervisors to approve or disapprove.
Correct. So I would go to that meeting on Wednesday and
All right. Well, Mr. Kraus, thank you for your time.
Thank
and,
you. Appreciate it.
Allowing us to
Healthy
come in and
dialogue.
discuss this with you.
nope, you're more than welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No other liaison groups here. So Monica, we're going to go to the director's report. Item number 5.
Yes, so there's just a couple fees that we weren't able to discuss in our very long meeting the other day. So I wanted to, I did put them in the fee schedule to go on the 20th, but if anybody on the board has any opposition or if you want to vote on these as a whole, that'd be great. So the fees are for bounce checks, the fee is currently $15. We look to increase that for $25. Causes a lot of staff headache when there's a bounce check. We have to do research, try to figure out, when was the check, what was the check for? So I just looking to increase that rate from 15 to 25. I can't I can't even figure out when the last time that was changed. So do you want me to just read through all the lists on the first slide first, Doug, or do you want to vote on?
No, we'll just do one vote on this one page on these.
Okay. The second one is key fob replacements. Same thing. It's more of a staff cost than anything else. Currently, we charge $5 for key fob replacement. I'm looking to increase that to $10. For-profit vendor fees, I'm looking to turn that into a sliding scale based on the size of the event. So smaller events, vendors get less, coverage, but say something like a community day, which we aren't having this year. But say something like a community day or a bigger event, we would charge vendors more to participate in those events. And also like say a food truck, we'd charge more for a food truck versus a table vendor. So that was $75 a day. Lights looking to increase just a percentage to $20 from $18. We haven't increased that for some time now.
That's an hour.
An hour, yeah, that's an hour, yes. And then bench donation program is just cost covering. Benches have gone up a bit. Our staff salaries have also gone up. So there's some time for installation. There's the supplies we need to install and the cost of the bench. And that is solely break even right there, the bench donation program.
Right, anybody want to make a proposal?
I'll make a motion to accept these changes and fees as stated.
Do I have a
I'll second that.
Thank you, Kim. Dennis makes the motion, Kim second. Do we have any discussion? Is there any public comment on the line? If none, okay. All vote, all in favor of the motion to recommend the fee changes as outlined on the sheet, please state aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion passes.
Okay. And then with the pool recommendation for fees, there are some things that we didn't officially vote on at that night. So we're looking at, I believe it was a 10 or 12% increase in lessons. Lessons would be 55 for the first child, 50 for each additional child. Private swim lessons would be 30, which I think was going up from 25. Semi-private will be 20. I try to keep them nice round numbers for you because that was a that was a concern.
Those are my one.
What's the, can you, on each of these, what's the current fee? So the new one's 55, what's the current?
I believe everything kind of went up $5.
Okay,
Lessons,
so is that,
55,
okay,
5,
so from
yeah.
50, 45, 15.
What
okay.
what is lesson? Well, so there's semi-private and private, but what is just lessons?
That group? of-
That's single, like a single person. Oh, that's private lessons. Lessons lessons are group lessons. So it's like about 12 kids, 12, I
so
think to
the-
15.
of That group.
Oh, but
lesson
that's over the course of a few weeks. That's why.
Over the course of a series
right,
of,
okay.
I think it's, I want to say it's 6 weeks.
Okay.
It was like what, a 40-minute session at the pool?
40 minutes, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then
The pool pavilion, I'm asking that we match the other pavilion recommendation you made. So the pool pavilion is in line with the park pavilions. So I'm just making the recommendation to match the vote that you did for the other pavilions. And then the swim team fees, I'm just looking to increase them by a small percentage to cover the staff costs will increase this next year.
What is it going from, Monica?
It was 6,000, I believe, this year.
I feel obliged to speak on behalf of Mike Lundy and make that 6,400.
duly noted, 6,400,
A round number.
rounded
Oh,
up.
round number. I'm sorry. I guess I missed that. 6,400.
He's here in spirit.
And what was the pavilion rental fee on this one prior?
I believe it's $25 an hour.
And that's what it was at the other pavilions?
It was the same matching for the other pavilions. And last meeting, you made this recommendation.
Okay.
That's the same minimum, right? We said it was 3 hours.
Same minimums. Everything's the same.
All right, does somebody want to make a motion?
I will make a motion since I recommended that the swim fee be updated to 6,400. But with that included, I would make a motion that we accept the full fees as stated.
We have a motion on the table for the pool fees as recommended with the change to $6,400 on the swim team fees. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Kim. Do we have any comment from anybody? Any of the board members? Do we have any public comment on the line? None? All right, all in favor of the motion on the floor, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, none. Motion passes. Okay, any, got projects and
So projects, I primarily just wanted to focus on Makefield Park project. We are done with our backgrounds and all of our focus groups and all of that. We're looking to set a date in January, hopefully we wanted to catch, our new supervisor who's coming on board up before we start doing this. You'll start to see presentations to the park board. You'll start to see public meetings, and then eventually a recommendation to the board of supervisors. I do have some meeting minutes to get up on the website, and some, I think all the focus group information is up there, but some meeting minutes to get up there. I'm still waiting on one from our vendor. We're seeing some themes. One in particular, which was a little surprising, was some of the recommendations from the seniors matched some of the recommendations from our teenagers, which was very interesting. So the seniors, wanted more shade. The teenagers wanted more shade. They wanted to feel connected with the park. They don't feel like there's stuff for them to do there, both the teenagers and seniors. So there's some similarities in, the feedback they're giving. We kind of recognize that there would have to be a reduction in use. The park is overutilized. And the committee kind of looked at every single different parcel and every different opportunity to try and amend that. But it does appear that we'd have to make, and I'm not going to give the whole presentation today because, but I don't think it's ready and it shouldn't come from me. But it does look like we'd have to make some strong considerations to do amendments in other locations at the township to prepare in order to make enough room at Makefield Park to do any kind of amendments and have that traffic control. So those are some of the things that we were looking at. So look for that coming real soon. I hope to have a schedule out. I kind of was waiting for the board schedule to come out for January before we kind of selected our date. I hope to give, the goal would be to give a 30-day, advertising time so that we could, even though that's not recommended or required, I'd like to give 30 days notice for a public meeting. So that's kind of the biggie right now. That's coming up. If anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
you're going to give us a timeline of activity in terms of.
Yeah, what's next? Yeah, I'll probably be able to send that out to you. Andy will kind of set that for us, the tone. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did wait because of the transition with Fred departing, supervisor. We have Colin temporarily, and then we have a new supervisor coming on board. We wanted to give the whole board the same opportunity to make a decision that would be more long lasting and more capable of implementation. So that was kind of the goal with the little bit of a delay. So that's kind of where we are. And then for the next item, summer planning, I just wanted to make sure the board knew and the community knew that our program manager got another job at Middletown Township, and she did leave us. So we are right now just trying to survive and fill her role. But she does, a big part of her job is summer camp, and we will start to see that we need to do staffing in January, and we start to plan that out in January. So I hope to get someone on board real soon. That is part of the preliminary budget. That position is budgeted in. So I really look forward to finding someone. I hope we can find someone great. We're a great place to be. So I think this would be a good opportunity for someone, the right person to fit in. So if anybody, once we advertise, I'm going to ask the board to help share the advertisement. We will start planning for the pool too. We have already, through the budgeting process, done a lot of planning, but we will start opening registration in January. So the influx will start, and also hiring our staff. So we hire about 120, 130 staff for the summer. So we'll be hiring, we'll be training, and we'll be getting everybody ready. So our hustle and bustle is about to come to us in January. So we are prepared. One thing for the pool that we've been looking at, and one of the biggest complaints last year was the idea of visitors, when we have guests come, if it rained, we did not provide refunds. So something that we were looking at recently is maybe taking a look at that process, maybe a rain check process or something like that. They paid $20 for the day, and if it starts raining an hour later, then that becomes quite a problem. And it also becomes a problem for our staff trying to manage that. So if we had a way to kind of soften that, we're looking at that. We're looking at adjusting our weather policies and to make it more clean and clear about when we close and why we close, and so that the whole staff understands that and can communicate that to the public when that happens. So we're kind of just looking at right now is our time to look and fine tune everything that we do based on feedback that we've received over the last year. So that's where we're at right now.
That guest pass, a digital guest pass, electronic, or is it hard?
It depends if people buy them in advance or if they just buy them right at the door single. You can buy a packet. We're not advanced enough right now to do it digitally. So we're just looking at those things. Does anybody have any questions about upcoming summer?
We're in the winter.
That's when the summer planning happens. We're going to start marketing soon for summer, everybody be cold and ready to get into the pool.
Monica, will you be able to hire a replacement? Because I know that there was replacement conversations in the Board of Supervisors budget talk.
Yeah, this position is not part of the general millage, it's part of Park and Rec millage. And it does kind of support itself in the fact that, it makes $250,000 in summer camp and $100,000 in revenue for the programming. So it looks like we will, in the preliminary budget, it is approved. Hopefully it stays that way.
Thank you.
And to be quite honest, I don't think we'd be able to sustain some of the programming that we have. That could be a discussion of whether to cancel summer camp or not.
Makes sense.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right. Does anybody else on the line have any comments?
I guess I'd just say, in case people didn't see it, the Board of Supervisors voted to get rid of Community Day.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have highlighted that. I'm very sorry.
You did slip it in there.
I slipped it in a little bit. Yes, the Community Day for 2020, 2024 is canceled. And that is not part of the preliminary budget. I think right now our staff is going to look at how to regroup and find an event that would be more cost friendly. Or different sponsorship ideas to try and cover the cost a little bit more.
Well, maybe something that we consider, it doesn't have to be tonight, but maybe some sort of a charity event, some unique sort of charity event that could bring people together in a fun sort of way.
So Monica, are you saying if there is some creative way that's discovered to fund it or get funded, that they could be re-established this year for 2024?
I mean, I don't know that we could do that this year because Community Day takes a year of planning. So if we don't have the funding lined up, and we're not planning it.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I did not see the Board of Supervisor meeting, but I'm curious, was there any conversation about just having sponsorship to keep fireworks?
I mean, if fireworks, I believe somewhere was around $15,000 if we got a sponsor for fireworks. If Kim Rock Group is interested in sponsoring fireworks,
I can sponsor like 3 minutes of the, and then maybe McCaffrey's can do the rest.
Can you get all your realtor friends?
Yeah.
All
No, I'm
the
just
realtor
thinking,
friends
like, I
together?
know people, like, one of the big, things that people like about it are the fireworks. So if just a few key sponsors were able to keep fireworks going until we figured out a continued plan for the future.
Does that take a full year to plan the fireworks?
Oh no, the fireworks is the easy part.
So I mean, that could be something that that maybe someone could pursue in the interim, if that's, it's like, hey, instead of doing away completely, it might be an opportunity to say we've scaled back to just fireworks this year. So, and then as we start to consider what a new community day might look like or some other type of event, but,
I just wonder, are there any new businesses entering the township that want to make a name for themselves, like grocery stores or anything?
lots of them.
Possibly,
Be a good opportunity for them to come get their name out there.
right.
I think it is important, Kim, to answer your question directly. Yes, we actually did discuss a couple of aspects of this. What came out and what Monica kind of told us is Community Day kind of has it's 2 days in one, really. There's a daytime where people come and they enjoy the carnival atmosphere and the vendors and all those things. And then they leave. And then there's a dead spot in the middle, and then folks come back nearer to sundown for the fireworks. So, Mr. Brody, I would like to say we didn't cancel Community Day. We canceled the funding for Community Day. So,
If you take out the funding, Colin, you take out the fun.
Certainly, nobody sat there and said, "Oh, Community Day, twirl
Pillars.
mustaches, let's get rid of this."
And in fairness, you guys were struggling with the same stuff we are. So it wasn't intended to be a shot. It was
no. I understand.
Right call for that moment in time.
And
I wasn't.
I think this is probably an appropriate time also to take a moment and really thank you folks on behalf of the Board of Supervisors. The work that you folks did on the fee structure was amazing. It was beyond what we expected. The level of detail that you went into, the care that you took in the process, it made our job on the larger budget much easier. Of all the commissions and boards that do volunteers that serve the town, you're one of the few that has a really strong and direct impact on the financial bottom line. So it is genuinely appreciated, the work that you all did. I know that was a very long meeting. And thank you so much for everything that you put into it.
Yeah, thank you for recognizing us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Colin.
Well, if there's no other comments, does someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor? Aye. Thank you
Aye.
all. Have a nice holiday.
You
We don't
too.
See you.
You too. Have a nice
Bye. Happy
holiday.
holidays.
We
in
have a
January.
We do have a January meeting, right?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Very good.
Mhm.
Thank you. Have a good day. Good holiday,
thanks.
everybody.